it's hot. Welcome back, friends, to the shop. So good news, as you see, Jeff's vise showed up. We've got a nice 6-inch Wilton here that we're going to install today. But first off, let's jump over and put that last panel in the fabricating bench. As you probably remember from last time, I figured a little bit short on this. So I've actually got the main piece tacked down here, and we got one more cross member to put in. But this is the piece that I had cut here. Now, when I sent very specific instructions of what this should be cut. It was 24 by 18. For some reason, they decided to cut it 24 by 17. But it's okay, because I had figured a 1/2 inch overhang on each side, and that basically brought it flush.
Oh man, that is super nice.
Let's take a look at what we got here. Boy, it's big. It's a big old vise. First impressions, it looks pretty good. This was a pretty good value. It's a full 6-inch, full-size vise. It's got a good anvil on the back. Decent hardware. The castings are okay. It's got removable jaws, pipe clamps in the center. Came with a template. I believe I threw some stainless bolts in here. Oh, they're there, right there. I threw those in there. I thought that would be a good project. So these are stainless. That's not really important, but it'll work with lock washers. It's a pretty handsome vise, I have to say. Hopefully these will be long enough. Well, that's perfect. When you're mounting your vise, if you can, put it on the corner. Something to consider that has really helped me. I get it out as far as I can. It also is going to depend upon the vise, but ultimately what you want to do is you want to be able to clamp something that's long and not interfere with the table. That's really, really important. So what I'll do is, when I'm laying these out, is I'll clamp this in here, and you can see if we come out to the edges, we have plenty of room for that long material to clear all the way to the floor. You see what I'm saying? If you have it back and you try to clamp something in and it hits the bench, then that's a problem. Before you drill your holes, make sure you have enough room to get that nut on there without it conflicting. Also reach up underneath there on the bottom side as well. If you can only get 3 bolts in it, that's okay. That's not a problem. I only have 3 bolts in my vise over there. If you look at automotive, whenever they connect something, they try to connect it with 3 points at least, and that's usually sufficient. I think that looks pretty good right there, guys. Mark this. We don't really need the template. We have I guess we could use it for the hole diameter. Now we could drill these, which is never fun, or we could cut it out with a plasma torch. Okay, so here's a little trick. So get these circles right, if you're going to use a torch, get a washer that's a little bit bigger than your bolt, maybe a size up or so, because that compensates for the thickness of your Sharpie. And if you center that on there, double check that with your bolt. Now we don't want it to be too tight because we'll never get these perfectly centered, then one won't fit. So we'll just basically go just a little bit outside of the black dot there. Let's do this. Let's cut the holes with the little baby plasma cutter, the cheapest plasma cutter on Amazon. Some of you guys took me to task yesterday for not testing it enough, but just doing little simple cuts, and I get that. For this first hole, I'm going to try something a little different. I really struggle with getting round holes free-handing. So I've got a washer that kind of compensates for that thickness of that electrode. So I'm going to try to go around like this. See what that does. For some reason, I couldn't get an arc started. It might, I wonder if it's that the ground is so far away from the cutter, but that little 3-foot cord on there, I can't get any closer. I'm gonna try it one more time, and if it doesn't work, I'm gonna just get my bigger one. Ah, it's hot. Those are not the right gloves for that. It didn't exactly go smooth there. I got my foot on fire there. Kind of lost that mark on that front one there. Let's just double check everything. Okay, we haven't destroyed anything yet. I gotta say, guys, that's a pretty good looking vise there. Well, that hardware is just right, isn't it? I'll put there's a little Loctite there. These things get a lot of vibration. They tend to want to work loose if you don't stay after them. I actually have a surprise for you.
Oh boy.
Yeah, come on into the shop.
Oh my goodness.
It's all ready.
This is what you told me I can't watch YouTube for.
I told you not to watch my videos.
Yeah. I haven't.
You haven't?
I have not. I've been a good boy. Oh my gosh.
Well, we built you your own workbench.
Look at that thing. Man, that is super freaking sweet. You did all that?
Well, me and one of my subscribers, Mike, he contributed the vise.
Oh, holy crap. I didn't even, my goodness, that's way better. Oh, family friendly. Wow. That is a huge improvement over what we have there. Man, that thing, God, that ain't going nowhere. I think we can clamp that down really good.
I don't think it's going anywhere.
Wow, Cody, man, hey, thanks, man. That's awesome. Oh, man, that is super nice.
There's a lot of things you can skimp on in your life and your shop, but having a wiggly vise is just not one of them. Here's the test. I'm going to clamp, I will break my cheater bar in here. This is a freestanding bench, not mounted to anything. Can you do this with yours? A little bit of movement in that, but that's... Once that's bolted down, that's not going anywhere. I got to call out a fellow YouTuber, my man, Mr. Guns and Gear. Bless him. I saw him working on I think he was working on a rifle, and he had man, your bench vise, it's just, you got to do something about that. He was wiggling all over the place. I was never cringed so hard in my life. So if I need to come out there and help you build a table, I'll do that. But I have to say that Mr. Guns and Gear is in one of the top 2 gun channels of my favorites. I can't tell which one I like better. I like Garantham. Garantham, of course, is I'd say Garantham's number 1, and Mr. Guns and Gear is number 2. You get that vise fixed, you might go up to number 1. So we'll see about that. That's it. I'm very excited. Tomorrow, my neighbor Jeff, the real Martian, who I built this table for, he doesn't know about it. He's going to be surprised. So I'm actually going to go over there tomorrow and help him build out his shop. We're going to I got the whole day set aside, so we're going to build those walls, and I'm going to take this over and surprise him with it. So he doesn't know about any of this stuff. So it's going to be super fun. So we'll see. I'll take it over there and I'll get the camera, see if we can get his surprise of his face on, or his surprise face on video. But turned out really good. I'm got no gripes. It's going to be a good bench. It'll last him forever. You know, sometimes I mentioned the bench, and I could see he wasn't putting the highest priority on that, and because he had other things, you know, pressing his mind. But sometimes there are things in your shop or in your life that you deal with, put up with for a long time, and then when you finally go about setting it right, and you ask yourself, of course, the question, why didn't I do this years ago? I think this is, I don't think, I know, this is where you got to start. If you do work in your shop and you're working on your own stuff and building stuff, man, you got to have a bench and you got to have a vise. That is the foundation of the whole thing. I don't even buy any tools until you get to that point. But you could do this. You know, how much do we have into this? Well, pallet racking, I think you could pick that up. If you look on Craigslist, let's say $100, right? $100 for pallet racking. We got $200 with the steel on there, which I was told is too expensive, but where I live, everything is double of anywhere else, and a $150 vise. So I would say at $300, $350, maybe $400, you could have yourself a bench that that'll be a joy every time you work on it the rest of your life. It's worth doing it. If you don't have a welder and such, good grief. I mean, you probably know someone who does. Get an old stick welder if you have to. You can buy those things a dime a dozen at garage sales. And couple YouTube videos and half a day of practice, you could be up and running and be an amateur pipe fitter. Well, not really, but you can build a bench anyway. So thanks for watching. May God bless you and your families. Please keep my family in your prayers. We are at the tip of the spear and our family is always under attack. And those prayers mean more to me than you will ever know. So don't forget, because prayer does work. We'll see you guys over at Jeff's house. It's hot.